What's up, guys? It's Dynasty the Mountaintops back again for week 13 into 14. I am Mickey, along with my co-host Jeremy. How you doing tonight, my man?
I'm doing all right, sir. I'm doing all right. I am still full from Thanksgiving. Best holiday of the year. Still coming down on my highs of that. How are you?
I'm good. I think the two football teams in Pittsburgh had too much tryptophan this weekend too, so ended up going to both games and they slept through them instead of actually showing up, which was great. But anyway, I'll digress there. I'm doing good otherwise, getting excited, getting ready for the playoffs. Me personally, I'm making both Dynasty playoffs, which is awesome. I know you weren't really trying in the one, so it's a 60-40 chance, I think, for the other one. Does that sound right? The other one that we're in together?
The other one about maybe 40-60. I need a little bit. I need a little bit more help. I've done my part in regards to points for, but I need a little bit of help from above me. So we'll see what happens. But my Champ League playoff semifinals start this week, and I have my opponent lined up. I'm looking forward to getting the wheels up on those and playing some meaningful playoff football.
No, absolutely. I'm excited. Last week of the season, I'm the only one that I'm actually worried about. I'm playing somebody in a redraft league, and 3-person keeper league, so mainly redraft. And we're fighting for the playoffs, me and him and one other person. So it'll be interesting to see two guys make it. So, but everything else, I'm making the playoffs somehow this year, which is positive. So, enough about that though. Our teams, no one cares about our teams. They care about how to fix their teams, right? Or how to make their teams a little bit better. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk week 13 injuries. Not too many this week, which is awesome. Takeaways from this past week, standouts as every week prior. Flex options for week 14. There are a few teams on a bye week, even though it's week 14, your last week of regular season for most fantasy managers there. And then the last piece, we're going to talk about, so you missed the playoffs. Now what do you do in Dynasty? Because it's never over. And we want to reiterate that. So we'll talk about those things a little bit more from right now experience in some cases, and also from prior experience as well. So we'll jump into that. But first off, let's go with the week that was. Week 13, injuries. We got Justin Herbert, probably the biggest name on here. One of the two biggest names on here, let me rephrase that. A break in his left hand. Could return week 15 is more probable, though, is what I'm hearing at least. So if Trey Lance is available, might want to suit him up for this week, get him in your roster if it's not too late. So other one, Amon-Ra St. Brown has an ankle injury. Supposedly it's a week 15 return, but I've heard he's only questionable. He's not on the not playing report. I think everyone assumed because they're playing Thursday night that he was probably going to sit out this week, be able to have that full weeks to recover instead of 3 days to recover. But it does not look like that. So, they played on Thursday, so it'll be a week recovery anyway. But it looks like he may play, so we'll have to check out that to find out that for sure. Marvin Harrison Jr. With a heel injury comes back from his previous injury and now has a heel injury. Week 15 return is possibly sooner, like I said, with the previous two, but it does look like he's more than likely out this week. I don't know if you have any update on that. And then Aaron Jones with a shoulder injury, I haven't heard much about that. But with Aaron Jones' injury, typically you're going to miss at least a week is what I've noticed from him. So any cleanup you need, anybody else you heard that might be injured, anything like that?
No, I think the biggest one to take away is the Amon-Ra St. Brown injury, and you nailed it pretty well. Yeah, it's a week gap here, but I don't necessarily think it's the week that in between injury. I think they're looking at a 10-day break post this Thursday game here, where they're going to be able to give him that full over 2 weeks rest. From what I'm reading, it's a grade 2 right ankle sprain, lateral ankle sprain. So I think he'll lose this week, and he comes back week 15. I agree. Aaron Jones, I've heard, was day to day. We could see him this week. Marvin Harrison, I know. Latest update was he was not practicing this week. And yeah, I heard the same on Justin Herbert. He's day to day. He immediately got that surgery done to fix a fractured bone on his hand, and he could very well come back this upcoming week. We'll see.
Yeah, the Herbert thing sounds like it's similar because it's his non-throwing hand. It sounds very similar to the Aaron Rodgers deal, where I know it was his wrist, but he wasn't able to play on the wrist for the first week to get it healed a little bit, be able to play on, and then be able to play the following week is what it sounds like. But you never count out Justin Herbert. He's one of those guys who sometimes just plays through, just like Baker Mayfield did this past week. So we'll see what happens there. Also, something that just happened about an hour ago. Since we're doing injuries and updates and things like that, the Ravens signed Mark Andrews to 3 more years. So those Isaiah Likely shares are kind of interesting right now. If you have those, I'm assuming they're not going to keep both. So where will Isaiah Likely go? We're not sure. But I know he is up for free agency. I believe it's this year. I don't know if you have any intel on that at all.
I don't know his contract off the top of my head, but it definitely shows to me that they have their comfort blanket with Mark Andrews, and they're going to ride that wagon till the wheels fall off. They see the Travis Kelce's, they see the Zach Ertz's, they see these tight ends who Darren Waller. They see these tight ends who kind of aren't aging. And so, hey, they're going to give him 3 more years and see exactly what he can do. Look, he's been Lamar's favorite target since their inception together. It's going to continue. It's the AFC North version of Mahomes and Kelsey. It's just a connection that is going to be forever synonymous with the two of them. And it's just low-key underrated because of the Kelsey aspect. Being successful prior, and it's going to be overshadowed because of Lamar's running abilities. But nevertheless, statistically, there's no line that that's a security blanket. I'm kind of not surprised that he's showing up for 3 more years. I'm a little surprised in the length of the contract, just because of his age. But again, it's Lamar's security blanket. So let's see what they do with Likely.
Yeah, I think everyone's a little bit surprised, though. I agree with you on the security blanket. I was a little surprised when I saw this. I was like, oh, Mark Andrews is going to be a free agent next year. They're moving on with the younger guy, and Isaiah Likely, who's faster, probably better receiver as well. But they love their security blanket, like you said, in Mark Andrews. So moving on with him for 3 more years. The Steelers have to see him twice again, which is awesome. So... to bring it back to personal, right? But yeah, we're going to move on to the takeaways here. First off, I think you have one about Thanksgiving.
No, yeah, I just wanted to call out Thanksgiving. It's probably one of my favorite traditions throughout the year. We had 3 good games. We had Bengals defeat the Ravens in the closer. We had the Cowboys and the Chiefs, and then the afternoon game, and then an evening game, if you will. And then the opener was the Lions losing to the Packers at home. But no, just some highlights from the Thanksgiving topics, like the most watched regular season game ever. These are numbers that just dropped today. Was the Dallas Cowboy Kansas City Chief game on Thanksgiving. The most watched regular season game ever with 57.2 million people. So not counting any Super Bowls or anything, but any other previously regular season record is now smashed with that afternoon game. That evening game. And then the night game was the most watched Thanksgiving night game ever with 28.4 million people tuning in. So there's interest there in the Thanksgiving. The pros of it was nice to have because there was no bye weeks. I hope that continues because they needed to chalk fill that schedule as much as possible. So I hope that continues. But I do just shout out for future reference. We very well could have had a stinker on our hands for that closer if we had 2 injured quarterbacks. With Lamar flirting with his injuries and Joe Burrow with his injuries, we could have had an absolute stinker on our hands there. So if they could flex some of these games, it would be great. But that's an argument for another time. But just a shout out for the Thanksgiving games. They didn't disappoint this year. And yeah, the ratings are through the roof.
Yeah, I think I saw 36%. It was higher by. Like it didn't just beat the most watched game ever, the 4 o'clock Dallas versus Kansas City. It like shattered from what I saw. So pretty crazy. That was awesome to see. But yeah, I mean, I always enjoy watching Thanksgiving. We had Black Friday as well. So for the guys that don't go shopping, most of us probably, um, we get to watch some football while the girls are out and having fun. So it was pretty cool, for me at least. That's for sure. Um, for me, my biggest takeaway is these second-year quarterbacks are kind of legit, or at least they're making their teams look legit. Let me put it that way. We have the two best records in the AFC and in football. Drake May, second-year quarterback with the Patriots, and then Bo Nix for the Broncos, second-year quarterback as well. Both same draft class. Guess what? The number one team in the NFC, I believe, is the Chicago Bears, which who would have thought that? Caleb Williams, same draft class. And then, of course, Jay Daniels was hurt most of the year, but we saw what he can do last year. And the other two, well, we'll see what happens. But 4 out of 6, not too shabby out of the first 12 picks or picks of the draft. So we were right about so far. It's early on in their career, obviously, but it looks like one of the guys is a front runner for the MVP. One of the guys is a front runner to maybe win the Super Bowl. The other one is just getting his bearings together with a brand new coach and be able to kind of change the culture, maybe become the best quarterback in Bears history, which probably won't be that difficult. And yeah, that's what I saw this past week was like, wow, these guys are showing up. And I knew they were all going to be pretty good or really good, especially a couple of them, but I never assumed that they would be kind of quote unquote taking over this early, if that makes sense, especially when they were just drafted last year and these teams were able to make a change so quick to make them relevant and playoff contenders and Super Bowl contenders, a couple of them as well. So pretty cool to see. That was just kind of the one thing that was on my brain after watching all these games this past weekend, especially after seeing, and I know you love him, Matt Stafford had a little bit rough of a game this week. So Drake May kind of vaulted, I believe, after Monday night into the MVP front runner, even though Stafford's probably right on his tail, I'm assuming. But yeah, it's just amazing to see these second-year quarterbacks what they're able to do.
No, great call out, and I like all the three quarterbacks you mentioned. With it being Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and Drake May. And I think you and I are going to butt heads on Drake May through Matthew Stafford for the rest of the season. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun one at that. I will admit, if we're basing it off of current live statistics, Drake May is a little bit in the front runner of that MVP due to Matthew Stafford's previous performance. But if there's one quarterback that knows how to bounce back, it's Matthew Stafford. So giddy up for this weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing how he answers that pitiful performance that he did. But no, I think you hear so much of the sophomore slumps. I'm not seeing it with these guys. They are statistically and metaphorically killing it. When more can be said that you haven't? I think it continues. I don't think this is a fluke. I think they ride this momentum for the rest of the year. And looking ahead, it would be fun to see them play against each other in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, right now, it's kind of what it's looking like is Bo Nix versus Drake May in the AFC Championship game, especially if the two juggernauts in Mahomes and Allen don't make the playoffs, which is what it's kind of looking like right now. So pretty interesting. And I'm not saying that there's a changing in the guard by any circumstance, but this year it looks like it's starting, which is pretty cool. So, and also you talked about Stafford having a rough game. Hey, who told everybody first that Carolina Panthers team was legit? I think we did. Just saying.
Can't disagree.
So speaking of the Carolina Panthers, this is a phenomenal lead-in, by the way. We're going to talk about standouts, and we're going to talk about that quarterback who beat Matthew Stafford. Really, it was the defense, but we're going to talk about the quarterback anyway because he was a top 10 guy. 15 to 20 for 206 yards and 3 touchdowns, 5 carries for 23 yards as well. Bryce Young, of course, is who we're talking about here. Just a great week. I mean, I know he only threw the ball 20 times, 75% completion percentage, though. I don't care how many times you throw the ball, 75% completion percentage, you're doing something right. Especially against a stout defense. Yeah, not much more I can say about it. I mean, I think Bryce Young is starting to play a little bit better. They're not putting it in his hands as much because they do have that dual threat in Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard can play, which I'm sure we're going to talk about at some point today. Um, so yeah, the other guy that I had, we've probably talked about, I don't know, over half the week, half the times this year in standouts, just because he has been insane. Dak Prescott, 27 to 39, 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions as well. And he doesn't run the ball, which is fine because of what he does, getting the ball to his two playmakers on the outside in Pickens and Lamb. Um, if this team continues to play the way they are playing, we were talking about MVPs, he's going to be right there in that conversation with those other two guys. The way he was playing earlier in the year and the defense couldn't help him, and now the way he's playing with the defense playing a little bit better, this could be scary. How good this team could get by the end of this year. So, and Dak Prescott's the catalyst for them. So, another great week by him for sure.
The weapons that he has should be illegal. There's some teams that would kill to have a George Pickens or CeeDee Lamb as their wide receiver one, and he has a wide receiver 1A and B. It seems like we talk about one of the three of them each week, but rightfully so. It's that high-powered offense that we thought Cincinnati was going to be. It's that greatest show on turf that we thought Cincinnati was going to be if Joe Burrow could have stayed healthy. They just have absolutely everything going for them. The running game is stepped up to what they have, and then Dak Prescott has done absolute remarkable things each and every week through the air. So I'm glad if you weren't going to mention them, I would have. So I'm glad that he got the love here. Speaking of love, why don't we pass it over to my quarterback, Mr. Love, Jordan Love, out of Green Bay. He played our Detroit Lions. He's played the Detroit Lions this week again on Thanksgiving. He went 18 for 30, 234 yards, and 4 touchdowns. That is a nice day at the office, if you ask anybody. I mean, what I'd like to see is he had 8 different wide receivers catch a ball. Now, I know it's kind of joked about in regards to how that wide receiver room is. They've also had a revolving door of wide receiver injuries, from Christian Watson being hurt, Jalen Reed being out most of the year. Matthew Golden hasn't been able to play, seems like almost all year. Tucker Kraft, he can be involved as well. Having these wide receivers, different wide receivers, and having him have 8 different targets be achieved is great to see. Another quarterback I wanted to mention is another one of my favorites is Joe Burrow against the Baltimore Ravens. Joe Burrow coming back off of that injury that I mentioned previously, the toe surgery. His first game back in about 8 weeks. He went 24 for 46, 261 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He himself had 7 different wide receivers catch the ball. So I like to highlight that every once in a while. When the quarterback showing the love, showing spreading the ball around, that we have these quarterbacks utilizing the multiple tight end sets, utilizing the wide receivers, utilizing their running backs. Each team has a running back that catches the ball out of the backfield anymore. Both Jordan Love and Joe Burrow are utilizing them accordingly.
Yeah, no, I mean, for Jordan Love, he's getting his best, in my opinion, his best receiver back shortly, which is a sneaky pickup if you can, or sneaky trade target maybe even. That he's still hurt, because when he comes back, he does things differently than every other receiver does, and helps Jordan Love as well relieve some pressure off of him with the little after the catch stuff he can do. So love that call out for Jordan Love. We've continually said that there's so many players on this team that Jordan Love's probably the guy to have, because he's the one who's getting all the points because he's always giving the ball to somebody. And then Joe Burrow, nice to see him back. I couldn't believe I saw him this year, but the fact that the Ravens and the Steelers have been so bad, and the Bengals, if they do run out, could make the playoffs somehow. It probably had something to do with it, I'm sure. But big win this past week, and he kind of looked back to himself, like he wasn't even hurt. So it was really nice to see there from Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I do like to see me some Joe Burrow, and I couldn't agree more. Looks like he's back to normal self. And yeah, if they do win out, the the way the division schedule played out with the Steelers and the Ravens playing each other twice and the Bengals playing the Ravens twice, it's in like the last 6 weeks. It's going to be some exciting football to see it play itself out. Let's transition this now to our running backs here. The first one I wanted to give a shout out to was Devon Chan out of Miami. They played the New Orleans Saints, and he went for 22 carries, 134 yards, and a touchdown. His longest was 29 yards, and which averaged out to be 6.1 yards per carry. He seems to continuously be the lone running back. Ollie Gordon sometimes gets some flashes here and there. Jalen Wright, you kind of hear more so anymore on special teams. It's Devon Chan's team. It's his running game, and he continues each and every week to prove exactly that. Numbers like this only highlight that fact. Those numbers for a chain were impressive. They were almost identically matched by Kyle Monangai out of Chicago against the Philadelphia Eagles. He too had 22 carries for 130 yards and a touchdown, 31 yards being his longest, averaging 5.9 yards per carry. So we have two running backs with almost identical numbers, both having solid career days, season career days, just this last week against two division opponents.
No, I've said it I don't know how many times. Devon Achane is one of my favorite players in the NFL, especially running back wise. I love watching him play football, and now that it seems like the entire offense is running through him, like passing and receiving, rushing and receiving. Yeah, passing and receiving. That's funny. He's been such a catalyst for a quiet, surging Dolphins team who's trying to find something at the end of the year here. But if you have him in fantasy, I just say congratulations. You're probably in the playoffs because he has been that good this year. Kyle Monangai, we're seeing a change in the guard, we think. However, I believe the Bears ran the ball so well that they had two of the top 5 running backs in fantasy on the same team this past week. You called out Kyle Monangai, but DeAndre Swift also had 24, 25 points, somewhere around there, just like Monangai. So they absolutely ran all over a team that no one's supposed to be able to run on in the Philadelphia Eagles. And with that offensive line, I can't see them stopping anytime soon. So if you're able to grab either of these two guys, it would be a smart move, and including A-Chain as well. So love that. But one guy that we forgot to talk about last week when we were talking about who the best running backs in the NFL are currently, is a dude by the name of Bijan Robinson. Don't know if you heard of him or not. 23 carries, 142 yards, and a touchdown. He's obviously in that conversation. I don't know how we forgot about him, to be honest with you. 5 catches on 7 targets for another 51 yards as well. That was 100% my bad. I'm such a Gibbs fan, I kind of forget that Bijan was picked in front of him and has been better than him throughout their career so far, but he had an absolutely incredible week this week, so I wanted to give him a shout out for sure. Also, someone who we haven't talked about too much this year, but I know you've liked in the past and probably still like this year, is Chuba Hubbard. We were talking about Rico Dowdle a lot throughout the middle of the season, but Chuba was the guy this past week. 17 carries, 83 yards, caught both of his passes for 41 yards and a touchdown. Just a really nice week for Chuba. I think it's going to be a 50-50 split almost. So being a Rico Dowdle owner, and I'm sure you probably have a little bit of Chuba Hubbard, excuse me. All right, yeah, we'll just say one name. There you go. He's the one name guy now. I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit worried about starting either of them, but I kind of have to at this point because I rode Dowdle for so long throughout the middle of the season. So, but a really nice week for Chuba.
No, it was great to see. I am a Chuba fan. I'm a Chuba owner. And no, I haven't been able to play him since he had this calf injury almost 2 months ago. And he missed a few games, and that's when Dowdle took over, and he hasn't looked back. But it was great to see him resurge out of this, especially seeing that receiving touchdown. Um, it was so good to see some life get got back into the Chuba Hubbard shares. And Bijan Robinson, yeah, you're right. I don't know how we didn't mention him. Probably because I'm a little envious. I play him this week in my championship team, so I kind of don't want to talk about him. Let's hope he had a great week last week. Therefore, he has a quiet week this upcoming. At least put some fantasy juju out there in my benefit. But great call on both running backs.
Yeah, well, Drake London should be coming back, so it might slow down Bijan a little bit because of the share of the ball, but we shall see. But reverting to or moving on to tight wide receivers here. I can't talk tonight, my man. Going on to wide receivers here. You talked about the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to talk about the number one wide receiver for them this week. Obviously not throughout the year. But Dontavian Wicks had a great day. 6 catches on 7 targets, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 of those 4. And also had a carry for 6 yards as well. I always bring that up because that's what they're missing is that extra piece. And they try to do this with other people. But Jaden Reed's the guy that does that. So when he comes back, Dontavian Wicks is going to be able to do a little bit more of what he's normally doing, which is catching touchdowns and catching the ball, intermediate routes, things like that. Um, so always nice to see. I said Dontavian Wicks was going to have a game. It just took a little bit longer than I expected for it to come. So that was nice to see that it finally came to fruition. Everyone on this team's had a week except for one, and he's a rookie. So I'm sure he'll be there if he's healthy by the end of the year as well. The other guy, it's nice to see him back in the top 10 wide receivers. CD Lamb, my dude. 7 catches on 9 targets, 112 yards, and a touchdown. It's not like George Pickens didn't eat either, but CeeDee Lamb had a little bit better of a game this week. He was the 1A versus the 1B to Pickens, where Pickens has been the 1A to the 1B to Lamb for most of the year so far. So you see what happens. You think Pickens is the number 1, so you cover him a little bit more. You put your number 1 cornerback on him, or however you do that, and then CD's going to eat. Like, that's just what they're going to do. You have to double both, and then you have Ferguson coming through the middle. Like, I don't know how you stop him, and it's awesome to see. Love seeing CD Lamb in the top 10, especially since I'm an owner of them. That helps for sure. But, yeah, these 2 guys, they had a heck of a day.
No, yeah, I fully agree. Great to see C2 get back in the top 10. And Wicks, those numbers are great, especially when, like I said, you consider the amount of receivers that Love that I mentioned earlier had. For him to have that much of a share is shows that the Guardian cap is standing out as predicted. So let's see if that continues. The wide receivers I wanted to highlight was first out of Kansas City, Rashee Rice. I'm a big fan of Rashee Rice. I own 2 shares of him in Dynasty, and I've kind of stuck with him throughout the entire process of his legal suspension. So it's good to see some of this continuously paying off. This week was no different against the poorest Dallas defense. He went 8 for 12, 92 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It was his second 2+ touchdown performance in 6 weeks, and he also had 12 targets, which was a season high. So a good day out of the office for Rashee Rice. Another one who seemed to come out of his shell was Donnie Mitchell, AD Mitch, out of the New York Jets against the Atlanta Falcons. The name sounds familiar because he was involved in a trade with Sauce Gardner. So he did not have his best debut game. However, he did not hesitate to come back out of his shell and throw out some numbers. He too went 8 for 12. He went for 102 yards and a touchdown. This was career highs in targets, receptions, and yards for AD Mitchell. So it was great to see him getting himself a nice report with Tyrone.
Tyrone Taylor.
Thank you, Tyrone Taylor. I wanted to call him Tyrone Tracy there for a moment there, and that's a completely different position and team and everything in between. So Tyrod Taylor, yeah, it was great to see him have a report with Tyrod Taylor and get his career high numbers up.
Yeah, no, I think we said, like, whenever AD Mitchell was on that was in this trade, that was a sneaky piece of it. He was very highly touted coming out of Texas, and with Xavier Worthy, of course, as well. And they didn't have any room for him. I mean, there wasn't much else to say about it. He had like a 20% target share whenever he was on the field. They just didn't put him on the field in Indianapolis. So now that he's getting on the field all the time, I have a feeling you're going to see these kind of games more often than not. Especially if Garrett Wilson's going to be out longer. When Garrett Wilson comes back, he'll probably be single covered. So that could be really exciting for the offense coming up, especially next year. Rashee Rice, he's been absolutely money since coming back. I was completely wrong. Xavier Worthy is basically non-existent. Rashee Rice is the number one. You were right. Absolutely. 100%. No questions asked. If he was here the whole year and he played like this, he probably would be the offensive MVP. That's how good he's playing. He's playing as good, if not better, than JSN. Just doesn't have the stats because he didn't have it the first 6 weeks. Just absolutely incredible what he's doing this year with Patrick Mahomes. And they're still losing, which is insane to me. So
couldn't say it better myself on Rice, though, so thank you for batting cleanup on that one. Let me transition this now to move to our tight ends. The first one I'm caught is Old Man Rivers, Zach Ertz. He gave the Commanders against the Denver Broncos. The stout Denver defense was no match for Zach Ertz. He had 10 catches out of 13 targets for 106 yards. 21 yards was his longest catch, averaging for a 10.6 yards per catch day at the offense. This was his second game as a Commander with 10 plus targets and over 100 plus yards in as many years as he's been there. And he looks to be a great security blanket for Mariota until Jalen Daniels comes back, and God knows when that's going to happen. One other guy I wanted to mention in tight ends is kind of ironic considering how our news started earlier today. Isaiah Likely, tight end out of Baltimore against the Cincinnati Bengals. This was by far his best day of his season. He went 5 for 6 for 95 yards. He had a 43-yard catch for a touchdown, which averaged him out to be 19 yards per catch. He's had less than 4 receptions, 8 of 9 games. So he hasn't had the numbers. It's been the Mark Andrews show, which again highlights why the contract's there and why the security blanket has never been more evident. Isaiah Likely, and they play the Steelers week 14. And if there's a top 5 team with tight end issues defensively, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, Isaiah Likely was one of my flex options last week, remember? Because he was playing the worst team against tight ends.
100%.
In the Bengals. And it came to fruition. It might come to fruition this week, too. So we shall see. Big game this weekend for them. But it is kind of ironic. He gets his best game, and then they're like, yeah, you know what, Andrews, we're going to re-sign you, and don't worry about Likely. I just thought that was pretty funny. As far as Zach Ertz goes, I feel like he's the one guy that actually did leave a place that we were talking about earlier, like Kelsey hasn't left, and with Mark Andrews now re-signing. Ertz was the one that was replaced by Dallas Goedert, and Dallas Goedert's been fine. But he's been great everywhere he goes. It doesn't matter. Just awesome to see him in the top 10. I feel like it's almost consistently at this point. It's like every other week. I feel like he's not on our show, but he's in the top 10. So pretty cool to see Zach Ertz still doing it at the age he's at. So for me, I went with a little bit younger of guys this week. Kyle Pitts, 7 catches on 8 targets, 82 yards. I also want to bring up, while I'm talking about Kyle Pitts, I think he was like 5th or 6th in tight ends this week. I didn't look fully at that, but I know he was high up there, and he had no touchdowns. He caught the ball 7 times, which, I mean, that, especially in a tight end premium league, that's going to be sufficient. But this is how bad the tight ends were again this week after the top, 3 or 4 maybe, all under 15 points. So if you can find a guy that gets you 15 points a week, that's kind of all you're looking for at a tight end right now. Now, the other guy, Brock Bowers, he's the one who probably going to get you more than 15 most weeks as long as they find a quarterback who can actually throw the ball. And hopefully that happens next year. But Brock Bowers, 4 for 4, 63 yards, 2 touchdowns. And if you saw the one catch that he made in the end zone, I don't know how he caught that off the ground. I don't know how it did touch the ground. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Brock Bowers' catch, and I'm sure it's the first thing you'll probably see. In a weekend, and this should have been a takeaway probably, in a weekend full of insane catches, Brock Bowers was one of those top catches for sure as well. Just not in the air, super low on the ground. Kind of doing it different than everybody else. But he had a great day. I'm hoping this is going to start something for him because it has been a little bit lackluster of a year, even though he's probably like, what, top 6 or 7 or 8. Fix that, by the way. 7 or 8 tight end on the year, probably. It still just doesn't feel like it, right? Like, per game, obviously. He missed a few weeks, but whenever he's out there, he's always in the top 10. So, wanted to talk about him a little bit since we haven't gotten to do that too much this year. And he's one of those top 2-3 tight ends in the NFL in most people's eyes. So,
yeah, I fully agree. Brock Bowers is exactly that. I can't really clean this up too much. You nailed it. I think he had one of the top 3 catches this weekend. And it's a solid day at the office. I mean, you're not getting the catch volume. 4 catches for a tight end. I mean, we're talking about Kyle Pitts having 7 and Zach Ertz having 10. But 2 touchdowns. 50% of your catches are touchdowns. I'm all in on that stat. So good day at the office here for Brock Bowers. Solid selections.
Absolutely. And since we were talking about the catches real quick, I have to ask, Odell Beckham catch or Treylon Burks?
Odell Beckham catch only because of its originality, because it was the first shock value catch that in this generation of shock value catches.
I can respect that. I went with Treylon Burks because Odell Beckham's got to like the 3-yard line. His was touchdown.
Fair enough. And
virtually the same thing.
Burks got his surgery on that finger, remember?
Yeah.
I think it's still bandaged. Yeah. I think it's still bandaged, so props on that. But no, I think just because of originality and the original shock value, I'm going to go with Odell. But heck, there's been some catches this weekend alone that, like you mentioned, that rival it. So it's been fun to see.
No, absolutely. So we're going to move on to our flex options for Week 14. Yes, flex in Week 14. We do have buys. Not sure why. But we have the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young, Rico Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard, and Tedero and McMillan. They have a tight end as well, but I'm not sure who's the number 1 there. It's either Stevion Sanders or Tremble. I'm not sure if either of them are too relevant right now in fantasy anyway. New England Patriots, we have Drake May, Trevion Henderson, Ramondre Stevenson, Stephon Diggs, Keyshawn Boutte, Hunter Henry. Some people even would throw in Mario Douglas. He's probably on the outside of that radar. New York Giants, Jackson Dart, Tyrone Tracy, with Wan'Dale Robinson, who's secretly having an insane year if you look at his statistics. So that's a big loss for people in their last week of the regular season. And Theo Johnson. And then finally, the San Francisco 49ers, we got Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey. Sorry about your loss. Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, I can't read, and George Kittle. I think Pearsall is fully healthy again. So that would be the 2 wide receivers there. Obviously, if you don't have George Kittle for your playoff hunt, hopefully you're already in the playoffs and you don't have to worry about that this week, especially with Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle not playing this week for the Niners. So with all those good players, there were quite a few big-time names there. We have some flex options for you for this week. So we each pick 5 every week, and I'll let Jeremy start with his number 5.
Nice segue there, sir. Number 5, I'm going to go with Xavier Worthy out of Kansas City. They're going against a very stingy Houston defense. Now, why on earth am I picking him as a flex option against a Houston defense that is stingy? It's because they're stingy because of Stingley. He's passed 6 games against 0 yards, 0 yards against, 0 yards against, 11 yards against, 9 yards against, 30 yards against, 7 yards against. That is insane. There's only been 5 receptions on 19 targets toward him. My point being is he is going to be on Rashee Rice. As much praise as I want to give Rice, their best defensive player is going to be on him. So Xavier Worthy could stretch that field and feast. He was just the past week, he went 4 for 61. It was his highest fantasy day, and he continues to see a healthy target share. He tying the team in team lead in targets amongst wide receivers between him and Rice, which ensures he's going to be involved in this offense.
No, I was really surprised when you picked the Kansas City Chiefs, so I wanted to hear why, and that was a great reason. Their entire defense is absolutely ridiculous. But it's gonna be really fun to watch that pass rush versus like arguably the best offensive line in football. Just personally, I love seeing those kind of matchups. Who's gonna actually win out on that will be fun to see. But yeah, Xavier Worthy, he needs to have some kind of game at some point this year. He's been rough all year, even with or without Rashee Rice. I know he was dealing with some injuries, but I agree with you. I'm hoping since Stingley should be on Rice, he should get the second cornerback, or he might even get double teamed. But hopefully he's able to have a day for 100% for the Kansas City Chiefs there. And what a heck of a game that's going to be anyway. So pumped for that one. For me, number 5, I don't know if you really consider this one a flex, but he's like 19-20 on the year per game. So Breece Hall against the Dolphins defense. Defense has been playing a little bit better, so that's why he's my number 5 and not higher. But they're tied second most, 20-plus rush yards. 20-plus yard rushes allowed in 12, so that's at least one a game, or that is one a game. And fourth most rush yards allowed with 1,650. As I said before, Miami has been playing a little bit better on defense as of late, but I think Breece Hall is going to be able to carve him up a little bit this week.
I love the call of Breece Hall. And again, it seems like they've got that quarterback situation at least figured out a little bit more with Tyrod Taylor. So it allows the teams defensively to kind of help spread the ball around a little bit, and it kind of opens up the box a little bit more for Breece Hall. And that's going to be shown, and it has been shown the past few games here, and it's going to be shown against that Miami defense. Great call out with the 20 yards rush, with the 20 yards plus. My fourth one I wanted to call out is a name that not many people have known by now, but he was a hot last fantasy year of his rookie years. Devon Vele, he was in Denver. He actually had a few draft picks traded for him to go to the New Orleans Saints. I'm going to pick him as my number 4 flex option against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think he's a great one. Because he's emerged as the number 2 wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints ever since the trade for Rashid Shaheed went to the Seattle Seahawks. He faces a Buccaneers defense who have allowed the 4th most passing yards per game this season, and he's coming off his best game of the season in Week 13, where he led the team in targets, receptions, and yards. So I think he's going to have another decent game against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I absolutely love this call. When I saw this on your list, I was like, yeah, absolutely. This is a game I feel like Rashid Shaheed, if he was still a Saint, would have actually ate. Absolutely ate. And since Devon Vele is kind of taking over his spot for the Saints, I agree with you. I think he'll have a really nice day. Number 4 for me, talked about Dontavian Wicks earlier. We talked about Jordan Love earlier. We've talked about a bunch of the receivers throughout the year. But I think Christian Watson this week against the Bears defense is going to have a really nice day. The Bears defense is tied second most 20-plus yard receptions in 42. Can't do the math real quick, but that's almost, I think, 4 of those a game. 4th most receiving touchdowns allowed with 24 as well. Christian Watson is the deep presence on this team, really stretches the field deep. So if someone's going to have the 20-plus yard reception, it's probably going to be him. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets in the end zone this week as well.
No, I think the Green Bay Packer wide receivers are coming into their own zone, and I think Watson's going to lead the way. He's finally healthy, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he continues to do. My number 3 of the day is going to be Jameson Williams, the Detroit Lions wide receiver in Dallas, against the Dallas Cowboys this Thursday. He's a great flex option for me because he is going to operate as Detroit Lions' top wide receiver because Amon-Ra St. Brown's most likely going to be out this week. And they've been playing Dallas, who have allowed the most fantasy points to wide receivers. Jamo has been a fantasy he's been a fantasy asset, at least positive as of late. He's totaling over 66 yards and a touchdown in 5 of his last 7 games. And just this past week 13, after St. Brown's injury, he recorded 7 receptions for 144 yards and a touchdown on 10 targets. So he's definitely filling in the St. Brown void accordingly.
Yeah, he's like a deep threat St. Brown whenever St. Brown's not on the field, is what I saw on Thursday, which was insane. Uh, so absolutely love JMO. I think if St. Brown doesn't play, he's going to absolutely feast and probably shouldn't even be a flex at that point. But if he doesn't play, still think he'll have a nice day with who they're playing this week. So, number 3 for me, we talked about this one before the show because you were like, Jordan Addison, really? Yeah, Jordan Addison, really. There he's playing the Commanders defense. They allowed the second most receiving yards, 3,229, tied 5th most receiving touchdowns in 32, and tied second most 20-plus yard receptions allowed with 42, just like I said about the Bears. That's almost 4 a game. Jordan Addison obviously is with Justin Jefferson. They've had a rough year because the quarterback situation has been very questionable, to say the least. With the young J.J. McCarthy and Wentz and Max Brosmer hopefully won't touch football ever again, unless you're a defensive fan. But hopefully, whoever the quarterback is this week, we'll be able to get Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson the ball because this is one of those teams that you absolutely can eat all or throw all over. You can run all over them too, really, but you only have looks like one running back this week in Jordan Mason, so you need to throw the ball as well. And this is a great time to do it. Also, it's the last week of the regular season, so I wanted to throw somebody out there who could just be an absolute shock, shock to the system kind of player for your team. Because this is one of those guys who, if you put him in the lineup, yeah, he might have a dud. It's very true. He's done it before. He's given me a goose egg. However, this guy could also be one of those guys who are in your flex and gets you 25, 30 points because he just absolutely goes off. This defense is not very good whatsoever, to be very as nice as I can about it. And I'm just I'm trying. I was thinking about not playing him, but the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna play him myself. So I have him in 2 different leagues. I'm probably gonna start him myself, and I suggest you do the same because I think he's gonna eat this week.
Oh man, don't be talking sweet nothings into my ear. It's champ week and I gotta make decisions with him. So don't you dare don't be teasing me. Don't be teasing me. I did want to go a little bit spicy here on my number 2-1. I do like to occasionally throw in a tight end. This week I wanted to throw in Tyler Warren. Not necessarily if you're flexing Tyler Warren, you have yourself one hell of a tight end room. But let's go with Tyler Warren nevertheless. Why? Because he's playing Jacksonville Jaguars and they've allowed the 2nd most points to tight ends, right behind our beloved Cincinnati Bengals. So if there's one team that's terrible in tight end coverage, there has to be a team that's 2nd worst, and that's the Jacksonville Jaguars. Warren has just proven to be a key component in the Colts passing attack, in my opinion. He leads the team in targets amongst the tight ends, and he has gone with numbers of he's 58 for 78, 684 yards, and 4 touchdowns so far, showing that he is a great passing candidate. I like Tyler Warren a lot this week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you do need him as your flex, well done. Because you have one heck of a tight end room. There's probably 4 players that I would start over him, and that's about it. And maybe even less than that because I'm not even sure about that. But love Tyler Warren. I think you just wanted to give him some love this week because we haven't really talked about him recently. He started off so hot that he just kind of got used to it, I feel like. So I love the call out. I think Tyler Warren will have a really nice day as well in a big game as well. So for me, I also went the tight end route. However, This is a guy who typically wouldn't be a flex, but he's coming off of being injured. Dalton Kincaid, if he plays this week, he's going up against the Bengals defense. Who did you say was the number one defense or worst defense against tight ends?
That would be the Cincinnati Bengals.
Hey, there you go. That's why you play him. Second most receiving touchdowns allowed with 26, allowing third most receiving yards. This is just receiving in general. 3,191, allowing the most 20-plus yard receptions in 45. Bengals still terrible against against tight ends, really terrible against everybody. So I suggest you play them. The way I talked about the Cowboys earlier in the year is the way I'm talking about the Bengals now. They are absolutely a joke. There's some podcasts that I listen to that are just like, we don't even associate them with the defense anymore. So the Jacksonville Jaguars would be actually the worst defense against tight ends because Cincinnati doesn't have a defense. If Dalton Kincaid plays, if he does not play, this would be Dawson Knox that I would easily switch in here. 100% still play him anyway. And basically, whatever tight end is playing against the Bengals should be your number one or number two flex option.
I love the call because it's exactly until they prove it to be broken, no need to fix it. If you're going to continue to play tight ends and be successful against the Cincinnati Bengals, and you're going to continue to play tight ends and be successful against the Cincinnati Bengals. My number one, let me go with this year. 100, 105, 112, 127, 130, 113. That is 6 consecutive game yardage earns from my number one, Chase Brown. And they are going against a Buffalo defense who is the third worst in the last 3 games with 141 yards or rush yards against. Chase Brown now is only going to be more lethal because he is also viable in the backfield for rushing and PPR passing. He's had 15 catches in the past 3 games, by the way. And all of this accumulates around the return of Joseph Lee Burrow, who is going to not only open up that offense, but allow defenses to not necessarily focus on a Chase Brown backfield with Joe Flacco or Jake Browning, and also allow Joe Burrow to be throwing passes to Chase Brown rather than a backup quarterback. So Chase Brown's going to be my number one flex play this week. If the consistency shows, if the consecutive games shows, I'm throwing him in with confidence.
Yeah, and not like he's a big name in fantasy, but from what I hear, Samaje Perine is questionable and might not be playing. He's a big pass catcher out of the backfield as well, which would absolutely help Chase Brown's stock as well. He'll be playing even more pass downs, which would be awesome. So I love this call, Chase Brown. He is not a flex for me this week because I need him in my keeper league, but I love the fact that you put him as your number one flex. That makes me feel a lot better, for sure. I also have a running back, number one, and I don't know if he's a flex either, but numbers say per game he should be. Quinshon Judkins, Titans. He's playing the Titans defense, which, if you know anything, play almost everybody against the Titans because that team is basically done for this year. Tied second most rush yards. The Titans tied second most rush yard touchdowns allowed in 17. Tied second most 40-plus rushes allowed as well in 5. That's almost one every other game, a 40-yard rush. That should not be the case. So with Quinshon Judkins, speed, power combination, I think he'll be able to run all over these Titans. Yes, I know it's the Cleveland Browns offense, and I'm always questionable about it myself. However, I do think Quinshon has a nice day. This is one of the few teams they could actually run on and be running in the second half because they're winning. So excited to see that and put them in your lineups as much as you can.
Love Judkins, big fan of Judkins, and would love to put him in my flex. So sign me up against this Ports defense. I like Judkins a lot.
All right, awesome. So those are 10 names that if you're fighting for the playoffs or you're already in the playoffs fighting for position maybe, those are some players you can play this week that should be able to go off against the defenses they have. Now we're going to move on. Hey, let's see. You missed the playoffs already. It's week 14. You already missed the playoffs. Now what do you do? Because as I said in the beginning, dynasty football is never over. You're always thinking about the next year if you have a crappy team or are tanking or however you want to say that. And you're always looking for the championship if you have a team to go for it. So, and if you're in the middle, you're trying to figure out which way you want to go, right? So, if you did miss the playoffs, we have a few option ideas for you on how you can make the next year better or make the next few years better or however that case may be. So, first off, for me, I'm going to just say real quick, this is all about if you have no trade deadline. If you have a trade deadline, it's a lot more difficult to do this right now, and you pretty much have to wait till the offseason. Um, so you can still use these ideas. It's just you'd have to only use them in the off season, unfortunately. But for people that have no trade deadline, which is how all my leagues are, luckily, the first thing I always go to, and I'll lead this off for us here, is figure out on your roster what year you expect to contend. And what I mean by that, and I think you can kind of bounce off of this as well, Jeremy, because I know we've talked about this in the past, is do you have young players and good draft picks so you're going to be about 2 years out, or do you have like guys who were just hurt this year that are prime of their career right now that next year you should be able to go for the chip very quickly. Figure out what your team looks like. A lot of rookies or a lot of draft picks, and if you have a lot of draft picks, obviously you want to look to a little bit more in the future. So that's the first thing I always try to figure out. Okay, am I trying to win this year or in 2 years? Or if it's a real bad team and really long rebuild, 3 years or longer than that. But that's the first thing I always look for. How about you?
That's a good call out. Because that leads into my next steps. Unfortunately, I'm facing a situation where I am in a situation where I'm not facing a trade deadline. But I did miss the playoffs. I traded a lot of my draft assets, if not all my draft capital, to make the playoffs. I came into the beginning of the year with full intentions of not making playoffs. My team was young. I built up a lot of it. I got a lot of draft cap done from this last draft class with Quinshon Judkins and Jackson Dart. And then I lost Mixon all year, but I lost Quinshon Judkins for the beginning of the half of the year. I lost Jackson Dart for a game or two after he started, but I didn't have him for the first 3 games. So I wasn't necessarily anticipating to make the playoffs, but then once it started getting close, I traded all my assets. That long-winded answer is you do want to figure out where you want to contend, because that's where you want to immediately start moving. For me, at least personally, where I want to immediately start moving these pieces. For example, I have David Montgomery. I think David Montgomery is a piece only valuable for this year. I don't see him being something valuable next year or the years after. So I'm looking at am I going to contend this year? No, I'm no longer going to contend because I'm out of the playoffs. So I'm shipping David Montgomery. I already blocked him, and anybody that comes at me with an offer, if it's decent enough for me and both parties agree, David Montgomery's getting moved off my team. I'm moving players right now that I feel that will not benefit me in the long run to try to get as much current draft cap as I possibly can.
No, that's a great call. David Montgomery is one that you could definitely use because he is almost done, but this year he could help you a lot. That's a good call. I also look for are there teams that are a piece or two away or a stud or two away and have an injured player? So Malik Neighbors might be a little bit of a stretch because he is probably a little bit more expensive than most. But do you have a big time guy on your team that you think? Trying to think of an example. Nico Collins. He's a little bit older than Neighbors, not a lot, but he's a little bit older. He's having a great last few weeks, and I would trade him for Neighbors straight up all day, every day, twice on Sunday, easily. So ideas like that. Injured players. I know the one person who used to host the show with me, Jimmy. He did this to an absolutely amazing way. I felt like it was almost cheating how easy it was for him. Whenever there was a player that went down, he made a huge trade almost every single time. Now he has from most people's eyes, three of the top receivers in the entire league in Lamb, Jefferson, and Chase going into the year, of course. Uh, and obviously it didn't come to fruition fully, but he was able to make those deals because of the injured player or the player being injured for a short amount of time. He was able to trade a bigger asset away that someone needed right now to cover that, and ended up winning that trade almost every single time. Another thing that, well, first off, have you ever tried that? Have you ever seen that happen a lot, or?
And I've seen it happen, especially like you said with Jim. I mean, he's a prime example
He's a master of
this happening. But no, you saw a lot of it happening when neighbors went down. When these big type of injuries happen, neighbors went down. You saw a lot of these assets being moved. So no, it definitely is something that does occur.
Yeah, and the next one for me, I don't know if you had another one or not, but real quick, for me, I want to trade if I don't make the playoffs. I always end up like last year. I didn't make the playoffs in our one league. I expected to and ended up not. I traded away players who were either at the end of their prime, like coming to the end of their prime, or a little bit older, if that makes sense, that were still studs, that I could get the most bang for my buck back. Because for the most part, unless you're just injury riddled and ready for next year already, which does happen, few far between, but it does happen. You can reload the next year with a little bit younger and be ready for the next year, but really be ready for 2 years down the road is where usually, if you're rebuilding, where you want to look at. So that's another thing that I always think about. Like Mike Evans last year, I traded down the stretch because he was having a great end of the season. And I was able to get some stuff back for it. A Chase Brown, who I wasn't sure if he was going to be good this year or not, I was able to trade, get a bunch of assets. Chuba Hubbard, same thing, because of what they were doing there. And Jonathan Brooks being there and have no idea what was going on there. I just wanted to get away from him. But he was valuable at that time for that team. So those are other things that you can definitely look at is who's the players that you believe are going to be either replaced by the team, and you have to take chances. That's the real big thing. The Chase Brown one probably backfired, but it still got some assets for a first round pick, I believe. So first round pick for any running back, I'm okay with.
No,
any running back like that, not the top running backs, but
no, great call on that. And that's kind of, I guess, maybe I spoke out of turn, but maybe that's what I was referring to with David Montgomery. Mm-hmm. I see him not being necessarily an asset that's going to benefit me next year, but he is somebody who is going to benefit somebody presently. So it's somebody who I want to move out. Rico Dowdle, I guess the playoff of the Chuba Hubbard also would be something, because this is where you want to start looking into the contract aspects of it. Rico Dowdle signed a 1-year deal. And we don't know what he's going to do. There's not been contract talks with Dowdle, so who knows what's going to happen with Carolina. So this is the kind of nitpicking that you want to do, and kind of the research that you want to do while there's a worried about playoffs. This is the kind of stuff that you're worrying about already at the next year. Yeah, and if there's no trade deadline, it's free game. If someone goes down and someone needs something, I reached out to them all the time and was like, hey, you lost this guy. What do you need? What can we do? Because I'm glad you mentioned about the taking of chances, because that is probably the most important takeaway here, is you have to take these chances, because this is right now the time to strike. You're getting these opportunities for these things to be cheaper, these players to be cheaper, these draft assets to be cheaper, because you're willing to take these chances. This is the time this is when you looking at your team going, what do I need? What was that little thing I missed? This is now the time to acquire that little thing, because you're going to be able to acquire it when the times are right and the people are desperate to give up these certain pieces. And all of it's accumulation of what you've mentioned, from moving older players, vet players, contract players, to acquiring maybe the injured player who would be a dynasty asset for you in the upcoming year, like a Neighbors, or even lower key, like a Jalen Reed. I know he was somebody who got traded around a lot when he first hit the IR. His 21-day window just opened up. So we might be able to have some Jalen Reed action for fantasy playoffs. That's going to be fun to see. So, nevertheless, it's accumulation of everything that you've touched base on here, Mick. And I like the way we worded it.
Yeah, and one other one that I almost forgot. Like you said, you do have to take chances, but you also have to take calculated risk. So knowing that, I'll bring up, and this was an off-season move, but um, actually there were two of them. So the first one was Chase Brown. I got with as an add-on in another deal because I knew Mixon wasn't going to be there next year. You just had that feeling that he wasn't going to be there at the end of the year. So um, ended up getting Chase Brown as an add-on, like as a cherry top to just finish the trade kind of deal. Ended up working out great there, obviously, but I took the chance. You don't know. And then I think I gave a second round pick for Rico Dowdle because they didn't have a starting team, a starter, and everyone said Ezekiel Elliott was going to start, and I laughed at them because he was washed. So I took a chance on Rico, and it ended up paying dividends, huge, and still is. So you do have to take those chances on players. Or 2 years ago, Quinton Judkins, or I'm not Quinton, Quentin Johnson, excuse me, another QJ. Quentin Johnson had a horrible rookie year, so his stock fell even though he was a first round pick. Well, everyone left the Chargers, right? So there was absolutely nobody left on the team. So take a chance. He ended up having a decent second half of the year. Someone wanted him. Ended up getting another piece that I needed from him. You have to take those chances, though. And this is the perfect time to do so because it's the cheapest you're going to get those extra pieces for while everyone else is trying to win the chip. Those little pieces are the ones that really help out for sure. So just a few things that we've done in the past to get ourselves to where we are now. I'm in, I think, top three in both of the dynasty leagues I'm in. So because of the things that we've done in the past. So hoping to win one chip. We'll see what happens. And as always, know your league. Don't just throw a trade out there because, and we say this all the time, and I know that we haven't said it in a while though, so I wanted to reiterate it. Don't just throw a trade out there because it benefits you. It needs to benefit the other person, especially if they're the ones in the playoffs. It really needs to benefit them right now, and you can get the extra pieces on the back end. So definitely make sure you know that. That's always the number one thing. Know your league for sure. So with that being said, anything else you wanted to say before we head out?
No, man, I'm ready for some fantasy playoffs here.
Yeah, man. Last week of regular season for most of you. Good luck to you since you had a bye week. You're already in the thick of it, semifinals already, which is crazy. Good luck to you. Hopefully, some of these tips help you this week as well. And for all of you who did make the playoffs, congratulations. We're going to talk about that next week, how to end up winning your chip, and might have a special guest. We'll talk about that next week as well, or throughout the week. We'll figure that out. But for Jeremy, I'm Mickey. This has been Dynasty from the Mountaintops. Check us out on Podbean, YouTube, and Apple, and also all of our socials, Blue Sky X at dynastymttops. Email us, dynastymttops@gmail.com for any comments, show ideas, who your flexes would be, what are your tips to win if you've already done so, or if you have any ideas for everybody else that how to rebuild, I guess what you would say. So let us know those. Love to hear from you. And again, for Jeremy, I'm Mickey. This has been Dynasty of the Mountaintops. Good luck in the final week of the regular season for most of you. And definitely good luck for you in the playoffs, Akron.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
See you.